Mr. Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the witnesses for appearing, and I also thank the ranking member for his comments earlier. And I'd like to associate myself with the comments with reference to the community banks and the credit unions being the small institutions that have provided a lot of opportunities for persons in various communities. I like to consider myself a friend of both small banks and credit unions. I'm not sure that we have a good definition for a community bank, but my suspicion is that $10 billion is a little bit high for a community bank. If I am incorrect and $10 billion is about the right size for a community bank, would someone please help me?
I might say 10 billion is a little low.
10 billion is a little low.
Is it 10 billion? And I think the way you need to evaluate, you know, who, if some bankers are going to get favorable treatment and others are not, I would suggest, and I'm not going to wish unfavorable treatment on anybody, but I think you need to examine the business model. You need to examine what people do, and that's more important. You know, if banks aren't involved in derivatives trading, they don't have complex exotic products, they aren't making, exotic loans, you know, that, and you serve, and the bank is engaged in serving their community. I don't think that because I happen to serve customers across several communities, that makes me any less of a community bank than someone who is maybe all within one county.
All right, let's see if there's another opinion. I seem to have hit a nerve.
I'd weigh in. I think my assessment of the industry is this. It's very difficult for a bank that's under $100 million to continue to exist profitably. It's going to be difficult across the country. I think you're going to see that optimal size of a small bank is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 billion, because that's what it's going to take to have the manpower to do all that is required to operate efficiently. And that doesn't, and I'm not suggesting that we should do away with regulation in order to allow smaller banks to exist. I think regulation is important, compliance is important, managing in a safe and sound way.
May I intercede for just 1 second? I appreciate where you're going, but would you do this for me? You're using a term that I've not introduced, and that is smaller banks, and I've said community banks.
Right.
Am I to assume that they're the same in your mind?
No, I'm about to tie those two together.
Okay, thank you.
Community banks, I think, will be in the range of $500 million up to, and I think your $10 billion number is about right. I don't think you're going to find many small banks smaller than that surviving, is the point I'm making.
Is it your opinion that smaller banks should survive or should not?
It would be great if they could survive. I just don't see at this moment, given all that is in front of us, the possibility.
The smaller banks that I talk to do tell me that they are, as you've indicated, over-regulated. But they don't see themselves in the same league, and maybe this is what one of our panelists has said, as the $10 billion banks. They really see themselves as true community banks. Now, we can debate that as to who's a true community bank and who's not. But they just see themselves as the real community banks, smaller than $10 billion. You walk in, you can meet the president. Got people working there that pretty much know the people that come in and out. They do live in the community. $10 billion banks, generally speaking, don't have quite the same relationship in their minds as banks that have 100, 200 million, maybe $500 million. And we have a lot of these banks that are coming to me and saying, I really need help. I'm not demeaning any of the other banks. I'm just trying to, in my mind, see if there's some merit to what these smaller banks, maybe that's a better term, smaller banks should receive in terms of attention. Mr. Pinkett, would you elaborate a moment?
That is exactly the point I was trying to make, Mr. Green, that there is this community bank has become a term of art. There's a level of bank that I think that is smaller than that really needs assistance also, different level of assistance. And so,
okay, well, let's agree that one size doesn't fit all, that community banks, some that are larger, some that are smaller, but that they need some help. And I'm amenable to doing what I can to help. In fact, I have agreed to go into my community, one aspect of it in any event, and actually visit a community bank. They'd like to show me, let me have a first-hand view of what's taking place. And my final question would be this: what one thing should I look for when I go into the bank, the smaller bank, community bank, to visit? What is the one thing I should look for?
I think what you'll see is the relationship that the customers have with the staff. They know each other. And there's a sharing because they're part of the community in a different way than you can be if you're 20 billion or I should say 50 billion. Not to offend anyone, size institution.
Mr. Chairman, may I just, in a sense of fairness, let's give Mr. Kim an opportunity to respond. If you would, Mr. Kim. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I would agree wholeheartedly with what Mr. Pinkett said. You go in and look and see the connection between the people in the bank with the customers that they're dealing with. And I would suggest that we go to great lengths to have staff in our branches that are engaged with the customers, that are interested in their communities. They're on the Rotary Club. You know, they're doing things to serve their community. That's all part of our model. That's who we are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.